and welcome to episode 10 of Let's Talk. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Faber-Castell Polychromos. You may already be familiar with these pencils, or this could potentially be the first you've heard about them. These pencils are a top-of-the-line artist-grade pencil. They were first introduced in 1908 by Count Alexander von Faber-Castell. The name Polychromos is a word derived from ancient Greek using poly and chroma, which means many colors. These pencils are made using a certified sustainable forest, and the varnish on the outside is water-based. As a whole, these pencils are very environmentally friendly. One of the other things that makes these pencils high quality is the Secural bonding process, also known as SV bonding. What this means is that the glue is along the full length of the casing, which helps to prevent breakage. This process was introduced in 1961. These are known as an oil-based pencil. However, there is in fact wax in the lead mix. It's only a small amount though. The main ingredients are vegetable oil, wax, and high-quality pigments. One of the interesting things I discovered was that these pencils are permanent. It does not require fixing. I don't tend to use a lot of fixative as it is, but apparently using a fixative could actually cause the lower layers of color to bleed through to the surface. This brings me to my next point, that 102 out of 120 of the pencils have at least a 3-star rating, which means that the color shouldn't fade for 100 plus years, so you most definitely won't need any kind of fixative with these. This is kind of the basic knowledge about Faber-Castell Polychromos. What I want to get into with you now is we're going to do a little bit of blending. We're going to do a little bit of coloring. I'm going to show you some color combinations I like to use. But before all that, let's take a look at the color selection itself. Now, if you need a chart for your Polychromos, you can find this on my website, emilyillustrator.com/downloads. But as you can see, it's got a great range of colors, plenty of yellows, reds. I could do with a few more purples, but I find that a common case with a lot of different pencil sets. There just doesn't seem to be enough purples or enough range. For instance, I would be happy with another like almost pastel level purple, maybe another really light pink, just a few more kind of pastel level pencils would be really nice. I mean, you've got the ivory and the cream, and that's really nice. The light green is good, but just something a little bit lighter for those really light kind of highlight points you want to put in. There's a lot of nice blues, great range of greens. You got plenty of really nice portrait tones, and then a really big selection of grays. So as a whole, I think 120 is more than enough, and they did a pretty good job of selecting their colors. So let's do a little bit of coloring and do some of these petals, do some of these leaves, and I'll kind of show you some of these combinations that I have picked out. And I will put all of the colors in the description below as well. So we're going to go ahead and start with some blue. This page is from Johanna Basfer's 30 Days of Creativity. So if you are interested in that, I'll also have that link in the description below. This first color that we're going to use is Prussian blue. Then we are going to be using, here, turn that around so you can see it. We're going to be using Cobalt Turquoise, and let's see, this one is Cobalt Green. And then we will probably use our Red Violet as kind of our contrasting accent color. So when I use these, I go ahead and I start with my darkest color here. And I kind of lay out where I want some of that contrast to be. Okay, I don't press super hard. It puts down a lot of really nice pigment. Like I said, it's a very high quality artist grade pencil, so you don't need to press that hard. I found that actually when I first got my first set of Faber-Castells, I actually really didn't like them. And here's the reason. It's because when I first started coloring, I was a Prismacolor girl. That is all I used. And if anybody has ever used both Prismacolor and Polychromos, you know that they are two very different pencils. And so my coloring style utilized a lot of, with Prismacolor, it's very soft and very forgiving. And so I would press very, very hard with Prismacolor. Now, that should not be the case with these pencils because these are a much harder pencil in comparison. And by pressing that hard, it becomes increasingly more difficult to blend. So one of the ways that you want to blend with Faber-Castell is you want to use light layers and build up. Now, I also like to use a blender. I like to use the Caran d'Ache blender stick. Now, that one's not as readily available anymore. They are coming out with the blender pencil, which I've also heard good things about. I'm kind of stuck on my blender stick, and hopefully I won't run out for a little while. But I do like to use that on, or you could use white Prismacolor on top. Just because these are a more oil-based pencil does not mean they don't react well with the wax-based ones. Now, there may be some artists out there that are like, what do you mean you don't use those too? Well, I do. It works for me. All right, now we're going to use Cobalt Green. Okay, and I'm going to go real light. And then we're going to use kind of our mid color to bridge the gap a little bit between these two. Because I don't want just a flat color. I want to make sure that we're getting some kind of contrasting variation. Okay, again, I'm not pressing real hard. Now we're going to come in with this one is the Cobalt Turquoise. Okay. You can see we're getting a little bit more of that kind of rich blue-green color, which is what I was kind of hoping for here. Okay, now let's go back in with our Prussian blue. Okay, now I'm going to start to press just a little bit harder. So generally, I probably do like maybe max 4 layers sometimes, but you can always go even lighter and do more than that. I suppose sometimes it just depends on how much patience you have. All right, let's go ahead and use our red violet. Now, where I'm going to use this is I am going to where I want my shadow to be, so where these petals are overlapping. So right here. Now I know we're just doing these two right now, but if I was doing more, then I would look to see where the overlap is. So for instance, this petal is underneath these two, so I would add more of my shadow here and more of my shadow here. So, and none of this is hyper realistic. I've said it before, but my goal is to get something that is pleasing to the eye, something that has contrast, not just flat color, but also something that can be utilized by all of you, whether you've had 5 days of practice or 5 years. So I like to try and make sure that this is, you know, kind of easily accessible to everyone. All right, Cobalt Turquoise, which is why this new book that Johanna put out is just perfect for this, because it's just, you know, 10 minutes, do little tidbits. Honestly, I've been hopping all over in this book. Okay, now we have Cobalt Green. Gonna go real light because I still want to make sure I have that nice light color. Okay, now let's grab our blender. And what this is doing is I'm not having this, I've mentioned before, I don't have it do the blending for me. Basically, I'm using this to kind of burnish the paper a little bit, kind of flatten out that tooth, because that eliminates those little white areas as you're coloring, especially when you're doing light layers. All right, so we're gonna sweep that away. All right, so there is our nice kind of blue petals. Let's go ahead and switch gears and let's do green, okay? So let's grab, we're gonna do kind of, we have a warm green combination and kind of a cooler green combination, and we're gonna do both of those, okay? So, but let's start with our warmer green combination, and we are going to be using Hooker's Green, okay? I know a lot of times people are just like, how on earth do I color this leaf? And a lot of times you just kind of look at the lines that the illustrator has added and just kind of use those as your guide. I also have a video, and I'll link it below, where I colored one leaf out of at the time, every Johanna book that was available. And so there's a wide variety of leaves there if you're struggling to kind of figure out how to color the leaves. You may be wondering like, oh, well, what's the actual, leaf here? How can I color this correctly? But as Johanna has said, in a lot of her books, she tends to create her own little inky hybrids of leaves. Now, granted, that's Johanna. So there are some illustrators out there who take a type of leaf, whatever name it is, and they try and draw it, very similarly. That's a really hard word. They make it look a lot like the real thing. So, whoever your favorite illustrator is or favorite coloring books, a lot of this you can take and kind of apply to their books. So it's not just based on Johanna's, but it's not a big secret that Johanna happens to be my favorite. So, all right, Permanent Green Olive. Okay. I want to leave just a little bit of space so I can add in my lightest green color. We're also going to be using a red as our contrasting color here. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, why didn't she use orange for her contrasting color on the flowers? And I don't always follow exact complementary rules for it. Honestly, it's like these are the things to follow if you're struggling, but there's no hard and fast rules. Earth green, yellowish. But it's hard to say no to red on green just because they contrast each other so well. They're very complementary. Okay. All right, so that's our kind of lightest color there. Now let's go ahead and bring in our red violet. Okay, now obviously we don't have the rest of the flower colored yet, but you can see where leaves and such are overlapped. Okay, and I want to do a little bit on the edge. And then we're going to go back over with our green colors again. There we go. Maybe we'll bring up a little bit in the middle too, to kind of show maybe a little bit of a crease in the leaf. All right, now let's grab our darkest green color that we chose again. That's Hooker's green. We're going to go over that red. Now, you of course could use black, and I've actually been using black more often than not, but a lot of times I like to just let the colors do the shading. So using a nice contrasting color gives you that nice kind of dark shadowed color without needing to use black. Sometimes black can be a little overwhelming. Okay, and now we're going to grab our permanent green olive again. Again, with these polychromos, we're just doing light layers. I am not pressing that hard. I always said I wish we need to get like a pressure plate, like a universal pressure plate, so I can like measure the pressure for you all so you can know, try and mimic that at home. Earth green, yellowish. A lot of it just takes practice and feel. Get an extra piece of paper. Just practice your layering. Maybe don't dive in on your favorite page, first, and just play around with it. Okay, so what we did is we did one layer of the 3 green colors. We did our red, and then we did another layer of the 3 green colors. Now, of course, you could do it again. But for me, that is the extent of what I'm going to do with that. Okay, now we're going to come in with our blender. Again, I feel like it's almost a misnomer. I'm going to call it a burnisher. We're going to come in with our burnisher. Okay. We're just going to smooth all that out. All right, and that is a really nice kind of warm colored leaf. All right, so before we move on to our other green color, why don't we move on to a different petal color here? And so my idea here is that you'll be able to come away with this today with a little bit more knowledge about the polychromos, a couple ideas for some color blending, and then also a kind of way for you to practice how to layer these. That is the end goal for today's video. Okay, so we're going to start with Indanthrone blue, okay? And just kind of the same thing we did on the blue leaves. Now, Indanthrone blue is technically a blue. It's more blue than it is purple. So I don't want to use too much of it and end up with another blue flower because I wanted to do 3 different flowers. Okay, so we've got just a little bit on there. Now we're going to come in with mauve or mauve, depending on where you are at in the world. But I'm going to call it mauve, and that is what we're using now. Okay, so we're just going to add that here a little bit. Okay, again, not pressing too hard. Okay, we're going to come in with our violet, the lightest of the purple from the set. Okay, just real light. All right, now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to grab a green, okay, deep cobalt green. Now, complementary color of purple is yellow, but I don't want this to come out brown. And if you were to add yellow on top, that's the kind of color you would get. So although it's complementary, I also want to keep my correct color tones that I would like. So that is why I am using another cool color to get kind of a deeper shadow. All right, so Indanthrone blue. Add that here. Okay. Then we're going to grab our mauve again. Okay, and then we'll grab our violet. Now, if you really wanted to create another light part, you could add pink to this on one of them, but we're just going to leave it as the purple. Okay, and then let's grab our blender. Smooth that out. Now, if you feel like maybe there isn't enough contrast, it's a little muddy, which I kind of feel like it is, you can always go back in with your green again. And now that we've kind of blended out, we could press a little bit harder here and just make sure that we're getting that little bit of color variation. Okay, now let's grab our Indanthrone. And that contrast, because contrast is really what's going to make your picture pop. Okay, that is a nice dark petal. All right, so we'll sweep that away. And then let's grab our other color combination for leaves here. Okay. And we just used it a minute ago. We have our deep cobalt green. And then we have our chrome oxide green fiery. Heck of a name right there. I am not even going to attempt the German pronunciations. If we learned anything from the other day's live stream, I cannot do accents or pronunciations. Light phthalo green is the other green we're going to use. All right, now let's see, which leaves do we want to do it on? You know, we could just do it on these leaves here, and it's just a different color than these ones, and that's just fine. Okay, so let's grab deep cobalt green is what we're using. Okay. Start with our darkest color here. Making sure that even though I'm pressing a little bit harder at the beginning, I am making room for those new colors. So at the edge, I lightly fade it out. That is going to be your key to blending your colors. If you do a really harsh line, it's going to be really hard to bring in those new colors, especially when you are using something that is much harder lead than something like Prismacolor. Prismacolor, like I said, is a bit more forgiving in that sense, but when you are training yourselves to use a harder leaded pencil, light layers and gentle fade outs from one color to the next are going to be your best friend. Okay, so now the chrome oxide green fiery. I really want the job of naming colored pencils. I think that would be so fun. I'd name them like the most obscure things, like kitten toe bean pink. That would be one. We would do lemon buttercup yellow. Ooh, we can name them all after food. Like well, no, they have watermelon. Okay, let's do, and they do have pencils named chocolate. Okay, never mind. There's plenty of them that are named after food. We just need more that are named after food. All right, and then light phthalo green. Okay. Fill all that in. All right, now I'm going to grab a color that I used earlier on this red flower here, and I am going to grab, this is Burnt Carmine, and this is the red that I want to use as my contrasting red on this leaf. Why? Because I wanted to use a different one, and when I look at the colors, after a while your eye is just sort of trained and you go, okay, these ones would look well together. Now, if all of this color matching and contrasting is just like, I don't get any of this, I actually have a Let's Talk that's all about color theory. So if you want to understand a little bit more about kind of how to match your colors and how they go well together, take a look at that. I will also link that one in the description below. So I know it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. All right, deep cobalt green. I mean, if anybody's been around here long enough, they know I like my color. I like a lot of color on a lot of things. However, that being said, I do challenge myself sometimes for like a one pencil challenge. Way back in the day when I colored one of the dragons, we're using the chrome oxide green fiery now. I actually did one of the dragon pages in the Pull Out in Enchanted Forest, you know, that 2-page spread. I did that all in black and white. That was an intense dragon. All right, so there's this one. And now we are going to add the light phthalo green. Okay. There we go. All right, let's use our blender here. Kind of smooth all that out. All right. And there we go. All right, so we have got a nice kind of red flower. We've got the blue petals. We've got the purple petals. We've got a nice kind of warm leaf and a cool leaf. So this is going to give you kind of like a starting point. And, you know, play with your different color combinations that you think might go well together. Take a look at your color wheel if you like to, or just grab a few colors from the set and roll with it. Like I said, if you need this color chart, you can find this one on my website. As a whole, the Faber-Castell Polychromos are going to be a great addition to any set, as long as it's, you know, within your budget and everything. But if it is, and this is something you've had your eye on, I don't think you'd be disappointed. Just remember to take your time. If you have been strictly using, you know, whether it's budget pencils or Prismacolors, things that are immensely different than Polychromos, be patient with them when you get them, just because it's going to take practice to learn how to use them. I mean, I enjoy using them, but I am no like immense expert on this. I still have times when I'm just like, why can't I get this to work? So, you know, you're in good company. And if you're really nervous about investing in a large set, then go to Blick and just get some singles, because that is another great thing about this set. Because it is a high quality set, it has open stock. A lot of budget sets or other sets, even the Ergosoft, which you all know I love, doesn't have open stock. This has open stock, so you can go to Blick, you can go to Jerry's Artorama, wherever it is that you get your open stock, you are going to find open stock Faber-Castell Polychromos. So if you are going to get any of them, get something that has a good range that can flow a light, a mid, and a dark. So something like the blues, or the purples, or the greens. Some that can maybe give you a little bit of contrast so that you can maybe take those home and practice your blending, practice, you know, making sure you've got those soft edges and everything. So yeah, take a look at the colors. If it's something you're interested in, great. If you just want to find some new color combinations for the pencils you already have, also great. All right, everyone. That's pretty much it. Nice little quick go over some Polychromos here. If you have any other questions, let me know. Be sure to post them in the comments below. If you've got a favorite color combination, please share it in the comments. Share it with the community. We always love new color combinations. Again, thank you for watching. If you like what you saw here today, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.